Hey, it's Michael here at Oilerslive. It's Oilers game day as the Oilers face off against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just finished this collaboration episode with the guys over at Handkerchief Dynasty and Bruce McCurdy. Make sure you give those guys a follow. Enjoy the new episode.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
All right, Handkerchief Dynasty, episode 114. Another sexily visual edition coming at you across the astral plane, from the far reaches of outer space to the deepest recesses of your imagination. We are here. We're playing the Leafs tonight, second game of 3. Our prediction is that since McDavid, and indeed the whole team was held pointless last game, we should expect a few points from the great one. Right? Or I guess I can't call him that. The greatest one?
You absolutely cannot call him that.
Can I call him?
No, you
can I call him? Yeah. What can I call him that's like the great one that will like annoy people but won't technically be verboten? The greatest one?
No.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. What do you call McDavid? He's got a lot of names, but the great one's not one of them.
The Connor, the McJesus.
McJesus is definitely one.
I'm not a fan of McJesus. I don't mind McDavid though. It's like sounds like McDavid, and it has some of those connotations without a specific one.
I haven't heard McDavid. I like that a lot.
Oh, it's mine.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Bruce terms a lot of he coins a lot of phrases like we're on Patreon now and we're going to be doing a monthly show, and I want to call that show Masterpieces of Deception, which is what Bruce termed the second and third goals of McDavid's last hat trick.
Oh, yeah.
And they were. I love that phrase, masterpieces of deception. So good to have you guys all on mic here. I mean, we got a tasty match coming up against Toronto tonight. Do we know if Matthews, he that is over heralded in the Eastern media, is he coming back tonight, or is he still out? Does anyone know?
Haven't heard.
Yeah, I was listening this morning to some of the Toronto folks. They said he only took light reps in practice yesterday, so there's an expectation he won't be back in today.
In the interest of creating controversy, I mean, what do you guys think of this whole thing in the media about Matthews somehow being in the same tier as McDavid? Because it really infuriates me, but the high priest tells me that I really just need to be turning off the Twitter component of the Toronto component of my Twitter. Bruce, what do you think of that?
My take is that he's real good, Matthews, and that Oilers fans who want him to fail are destined to be disappointed, because he's not a fail. He's a hell of a player and a hell of a two-way player, great sniper. I would not trade McDavid for him. It's kind of my bottom line position. I would love to have him. I'm not sure I would trade Draisaitl for him. In fact, I don't think I would.
Hell no.
But
no.
It's just, and some of it's personal preference. They're certainly all among the elite players in the league, and to suggest otherwise is to put on an anti-Toronto bias, which in its way can be as annoying as the pro-Toronto bias.
Good call on that one.
That sounds direct. Sounds like it was directed towards me.
No, that's directed towards about 87% of the Oilogosphere, actually.
Yeah.
I hate Toronto too, but I can see what I see.
Yeah,
I think.
They got a great team right now. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things I think it was Paul Almeida put out a poll a couple days ago, and he said, if you were to start a franchise, who would you take and in what order? And it was McDavid, I think McKinnon, Draisaitl, and Matthews. And I think that answers your question. I mean, you take McDavid and you probably wouldn't take Matthews even second in that list, to be honest, to start a franchise. But, like Bruce said, if you're looking for him to fail, there's no chance of it. I mean, the guy is a sniper, and he's, if he can get through a season healthy, he's a 50 goal a year guy. And you can book it. Yeah, he's awesome. I respect the talent. Just, it's a little bit overhyped in comparison. And Edmonton media has got the same thing on occasion when we've got a player that's just scraping, that close to greatness. They will on occasion say he's better than he is. And so I'm not surprised by it. It just happens to be there's more Toronto media than Edmonton media, right? Yeah.
Yeah, fair to say by a wide margin. I mean, I think I'm probably oversensitive, but I do think I will be emigrating out of Canada pretty soon based on all the buzz out of Toronto. I'm pretty sure that's the number one cause of emigrating out of Canada. I wanted to ask you guys, we're well past the quarter pole mark. What are we in, like 20 games now? Deep?
23.
Yeah, so I mean, we're almost at the halfway mark. That's literally the halfway mark, right? Although obviously the American teams probably aren't going to get to 56. But I was looking at some of our pending UFAs, and maybe this is too early, but there's a few names on the list that really I wouldn't have expected necessarily to see as targets for being re-signed, but some of them are making a pretty good case for themselves right now. I'm thinking of, I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts on Alex Chiasson, Chaser, and his recent play. Because I've been quite impressed with him, and I wouldn't mind seeing him re-signed to maybe a little less than the 2.15 he's got. But I love the jib on this kid. I love his work in front of the net. Am I crazy that I want to see this guy re-sign maybe for like, say one point something for a couple more years?
I don't think so. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I'd love to hear Bruce. I mean, you guys, you and the guys put together those high. What do you call them? Sorry.
Game grades, scoring chances.
Yeah, the high scoring chances, high opportunities.
Grade A scoring chances.
Grade A scoring chances.
Always makes me want an egg whenever you guys talk about your grade A scoring chances. All I want is an egg. But yeah, go ahead.
Where's he fit in the mix? Of Oilers players. I'm not against Holland re-signing him, but at the same time, I'm not. If there's another player out there, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
He's a depth guy for sure, but he's a damn good depth guy. He's got real utility on the power play that has proven out. I mean, this is his third year as an Oiler, and he was good on the power play the first year. Last year, he had the best rate of goals for on of any player, regular power player in the entire league. The Oilers scored 13.8 goals for every 60 minutes Chiasson was on the ice on the power play. It was a goal clear of McDavid, and the other star Oilers, and Neil was a notch below them, and all of them were at the top. And the Oilers last year were just off the charts. And this year we have Chiasson hadn't scored on the power play until recently, but he got a big goal in Vancouver that put him ahead to stay. He got a pass on the tying goal in the big comeback in Vancouver. He also got a big goal against Calgary the previous Saturday that put him ahead to stay. It wound up being 7-1, but at the time it was a big goal, especially being as it was scored with ugly Sam Bennett in the penalty box, having put Slater Kukuk out for the season. You want to score on that power play. So points for Chiasson for picking the spot. Anyway, we had him before that as contributing to no fewer than 6 Oilers power play goals, all by screening the goalie. Like, he's just exceptional at that. And we try and recognize goalie screens, which is generally unrecognized in scoring summaries. And the stuff that he does is crowd the blue paint, create passing lanes behind him, screen the goalie, every once in a while clean up the garbage in front. And he's also really good at winning puck battles. When the shot from the point is saved and it goes to the boards, he crashes the boards hard, and he often keeps possession and those are all valuable things. Not very often do they even result in points, but it's just like saying, to me, the net front guy on the power play, you talk about the quarterback on the blue line of the power play, the net front guy is the tight end. And every once in a while, he's going to catch a pass, but a lot of the good work he's going to do is just by blocking, by playing his position and kind of being that X factor where he can come in and create some space for those skill guys that have the football, behind him. Well, in this case, of course, it's a puck, but it's an equivalent role, and he does it, to my eye, very, very well. At even strength, he's a low event player, gets the odd point here and there, but defensively very, very sound. And so to me, he's worth, if you talk about his $2.15 million contract, like everybody wants to me, he's worth $1 million on the power play and $1 million at even strength. And I'll give him $150,000 for his leadership and his one and only Stanley Cup ring that's in that entire dressing room. It's nice to have one of those. And he's the guy. I just think he's just a real solid piece in a depth role. So lower salary would be nice. I mean, if we could get him back at 650,000 like he was in 2018-19, that would be ideal, right? But over the 3 years that he's been here, I would suggest that he's earned the total money that the Oilers will have paid him.
High Priest, do you want to chime in? Do you think Alex Chiasson is the greatest French Canadian who ever lived? Yes or no?
Well, he's definitely probably top 1,000.
Top 1,000? That's pretty good.
I think he's. I think I would agree with Bruce. He's extremely valuable. He's been extremely valuable in the sense that he's been to the top of the mountain, and on a deep run, guys like that. That's their bread and butter, right? Like that's when those guys become extremely valuable. When it's all new, when it's a deep run, it's so important to have a guy that's been there before. And there's that old story about when the Oilers lost to the Islanders and they walked past the locker room, the Islanders locker room, and the Isles were just in there, just completely beat up. They had nothing left in the tank. And you want guys on a team that are able to, they've been there before. We don't have a lot of veteran guys. And I think that's something that in the past has maybe bit us a little bit. So I don't know, when you have a guy like him who's able, his net front presence, sound defensively, just like Bruce said, like he's definitely someone I would want to see back next year for the same. I mean, if we could get him for less, that'd be great. But I think he's definitely earned what he's getting, and he's done more or less what's been expected of him.
Let me ask you guys this: if it's the choice of having that extra $1 million to pay Nuge to keep him, I mean, what's your option? There's a few, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Nuge is a priority. I think Nuge is likely to get locked up here. There is a lot of, I doubt if it would come down to that. Like there's a lot of money to be played with this offseason. But I mean, yeah, Nuge is definitely the top free agent priority. And I think everything else is second order.
Well, remember the summer that the Oilers re-signed Chiasson on July 1st. But it was during the day. He was briefly on the market. And so were the Oilers, and the key target in the eyes of many was Brett Connolly, who wound up signing 4 years, $14 million down in Florida. Noticed his name on the waiver wire yesterday, and he's got like one goal, and I don't think he's got the rep as a defensive player even that Chiasson does. For what they signed him for, which was short term, 2 years. And low money he was the cheapest 20-goal scorer on the market that year. And people could say, well, he's not really a 20-goal scorer, and they'd be right. But because he's typically been 11, 13, 15 throughout his career, but he's been consistent. He had a great year for the Oilers at NHL minimum, and he cashed in a little bit, but it's not like they gave him 4 times 3.5 or God forbid 7 times 6. I mean, they paid him, I thought, pretty commensurate with what he'd earned. Maybe next year, because he's not going to have 20-goal seasons, that price tag will come down a little bit. But I don't see the little marginal bit being in the way of signing Nuge, personally.
Yeah.
Guys, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, where do you guys see Zach Kassian slotting back into the lineup once he's healthy enough to play?
It's a good question. Maybe not at all. I mean, we got him for a number of more years. I'm still hoping somehow by some miracle we see things turn around for Zach, because I think, that little ball of crazy the very first episode of Handkerchief Dynasty is titled Wild Pit of Insane Rage in honor of Zach Chiasson. And if we can see a reemergence of the Wild Pit of Insane Rage, I have him on my team all day, but I haven't seen the passion in so long. I'm starting to wonder if, maybe he's got someone on the side. Maybe he's been Instagram DMing with some other tart and the marriage is over. I don't know.
I saw him say "Go Flames, go" or equivalent the other day. I mean, that sounds like a tart on the side to me. Holy.
Whoa, I didn't hear about that. That's scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got a little video. Some guy paid him $100 and he
It's
comes out.
cameo. Yeah.
Oh, stop it.
What is the world coming to?
Hard to believe he
$100.
would do that for
The
$100.
Oilers paid him
Yeah.
8 figures, and for $100 he does that. I mean, I know it's a little bit of fun, but it's not a good look, Zach. It really isn't.
Especially for a guy who's made his bones on, I expect almost nobody on the Oilers to have more bile for the Flames than Zach Chiasson.
And Matt Tkachuk, who he went out of his way to praise, and he was clearly reading a script or he'd been prompted.
Stop.
But stop.
Oh my
Bruce.
God.
I don't want to hear anymore.
Speaking of, I want to get this in really quick. This is coming right down off the wire. Oilers claim goalie Stalock off waivers from the Wild. Anyone have an opinion on Alex Stalock? I mean, we might not even see him the whole year, right?
Holy smokes.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, it happened about an hour ago. I mean, that's good, right? I mean, we all knew they needed a third stringer. It is what it is, right? They'll keep him in hope. Maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't, but my guess is we'll have him for about a week before somebody else claims him when we drop him on waivers, right? And
it's been a wacky year for waivers, no question.
I was going to, one of the things I had written down here is, how would you guys describe our current goaltending situation? I feel
good question
that it's precarious. I feel that we're one bad Mikko, maybe a couple of bad Mikko starts away from entering territory where we stop using words like tandem, and this becomes more of a 1 and 2 goaltending situation, an A and B situation, as opposed to a 1A and 1B situation. And now with Alex Stalock, I mean, how would you guys describe our current goaltending situation? Bruce?
Precarious is a great word. That really does kind of sum it up. I do think that Tippett's preference for Mike Smith has become, it was already fairly apparent, but even more so. Smith's come back and he has played well until last game. I thought he was poor on Saturday night, frankly, but since Smith came back, Koskinen's had 2 starts and he posted a .952 and a .977. And for that, he got stuck back on the bench for over a week each time. Like, he played the 2 back-to-backs, and both times he stoned the other team and came away with the win, faced over 40 shots each time. And yet Tippett goes back to Smith, then Smith, then Smith again. And I'm pretty sure Costin is going to get the start against Toronto tonight, because if he doesn't, it's almost a firing offense, frankly, at this point. But
wow.
Yeah, well, geez, I mean, come on. And I know that Holland and Tippett had nothing to do with Koskinen's contract, but they did have something to do with Smith's contract, and he got cut back in pay and bonuses by a significant amount. And yet they're treating him like he's still the number one. Pretty sure that they like his puck handling and the way he kind of relieves stress on the defense, and that's a priority for Tippett, obviously. But Koskinen's a better pure stopper, and I'd like to see him get some games. I mean, if it's supposed to be a 2 goalie system, then let's see the 2 goalies.
Mike.
Yeah, go ahead, High Priest. You're clearly, there's a look on your face like you're ready to skin a cat.
I mean, Mike Smith has been playing pretty damn well lately, and I don't know. He's been better than, I would say he's been a bit better than just good. I'm not sure that
he's been real good. Okay,
he's been real good. I like that better. I'm not sure that Yeah, I don't know. I think that his play has justified him being in there. And I also think that Mike Smith brings a lot of things to that room that Mikko Koskinen might not bring. He doesn't have the same qualities. So I'm not sure. Mikko to me he's won some games, but he hasn't to me yet stolen a game. He hasn't made the big save that's won the game. And I think until he has one of those games, I don't know. I don't think the team is going to play as confident in front of Mikko as they play in front of Mike Smith.
Well, they won a game in Ottawa, the second game of the back-to-back in Ottawa. And the Oilers were frankly brutal in that game. And they got outshot, I think it was 42-22, and they won 3-2. I credit Mikko with that win. Like I don't think they would have won that game without him.
I get that one. I'm with you though. I don't think he's like stolen a game, been lights out where it's just a masterful performance. He's certainly been, the better goalie in a couple. But look, I think we're not giving these guys enough credit. They had a hell of a year last year as a tandem, right? And they're showing that right now that Mike Smith is back. They're back on that. And Mike Smith, I think, the way Tippett sees it is he does want to give equal time. And Smith had some catching up to do, right? He gave Koskinen a bit of a break, and he played the hot hand in Mike Smith. You know what? I mean, unless if they go through a stretch here where they, prove it wrong, then, our goaltending situation isn't as precarious as we'd think. I mean, this is the tandem that last year, was pretty damn good when you look at it, right? Smith was 902 and Koskinen was 917 through a season. They both played, I think they're like a game apart from each other.
Yep.
You got Stalock, if you can keep him and the waiver's not too crazy, at least you got a backup that can give a guy a break. That's not Stuart Skinner. All respect to that kid, but that poor guy bringing him in that situation.
He won his game.
Yeah,
he did win his game.
He won it. It wasn't necessarily pretty, but
it's a bit of a team win, I would call that one.
But I, you know what? I like this. I think I'd be surprised if we don't see Koskinen in net tonight. But I'm not sure firing offense, but pretty damn crazy. I was surprised that he didn't have Bouchard in, but I question Tippett every game, and we're second in the division. So
yeah,
right.
He's a fun coach to question because he seems really dug in when he makes a decision. He seems like he doesn't feel like anyone's entitled to like an explanation really that much. I mean, he'll give one, but it'll usually be like, I don't know. Before we move on from the goaltending, though, like Mike Smith has a .934 save percentage right now in the games he's played. Like, what save percentage guarantees that Mike Smith gets an offer from the Oilers this offseason to be in the tandem again? Like 915, 925. I think if he gets if he's got a 915 save percentage, I don't see how we don't try and get him again for one more year as at least the backup.
Yeah. I disagree.
Or the starter.
I think this is likely, unless if there's nobody around again, this is likely the last season we see Smith. I just can't see them going.
Just because of how hard they went after Markstrom, and you feel like they're looking for someone more long term. They want to settle down.
They're looking for a bona fide starter, right? And while I just finished saying these guys are not in a precarious situation, as we saw with Mikko when he's all alone. He's not the guy, right? He needs half and half time, and if they need a bona fide starter, and that may be the precarious part of this is if one of those guys goes down, and Smith, while he's playing like he's young, he's not young for a hockey player, and especially a goalie that's been through a lot, and the pad save there, the throwing the pads up there, and that's great, but I can't. I'd put money down that he's not back next year.
What do you think, Bruce?
Would be pretty good.
Well, I mean, 915 sounds good. He's certainly got a nice head start on it. I mean, if he goes over his next 8 games 900, he's still at 917, right? Based on 934 to date or somewhere in that neighborhood. I've had people tell me he'll wind up at 885, and I've been quite outspoken in saying that's not going to happen. And I mean, there are people that have zero confidence in Mike Smith. I'm not that guy, but I am the guy that says when you got a 38-year-old goalie and you start him in 8 out of 10 games, you shouldn't be too surprised when he comes up off his form in the 8th game. And I personally thought Saturday was the time to start Koskinen, but being the first game against this big series against Toronto, Smith coming off the shutout, I can see it. Tonight they'll switch it out.
What are your thoughts on where our second line is right now? Are we in danger of becoming? It seems like we found. Well, I think we have found a third line. There's a lot of chemistry on that third line, but are the Oilers in danger of becoming a line that, if the opposition is able to shut down that first line, there's not enough of a push from the second line to kind of. Where are you at with the second line? How do you feel about what's going on with that second line?
Leon's banged up. It's quite clear he's missed a bunch of practices. He missed a practice after an off day, which is a rare thing. He's looking at half bubble off plumb. I've heard people say upper body, lower body, that he doesn't have the power in his drive, that he's not anxious to shoot the puck. I've seen a couple games where he had 0 shots and where he passed from shooting position on multiple occasions. And I've seen a few times where he stepped aside from the face-off dot and let Cahoon take the draw. I think the issue more on the second line though right now is that the wingers aren't doing a hell of a lot of anything. And Draisaitl is really the, carrying the mail there. And Cahoon he's good at showing up in dangerous spots once in a while. He needs to bury it a little bit more, I think. And Yamamoto is down significantly from where he was in the second half of last season when he was frankly outstanding. And we hope to see more than that. But there's some nights where he's just I won't say passenger, but he's just another guy that happens to be in the top 6. And I'd like to see him raise his game on a more consistent level.
Do you think we'll ever see the dry line reunited, or is that we're just never going to see that again? Because you're right, Yamo has looked. I mean, he's still the aggressive forechecker that we absolutely love.
Yep.
But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was no longer on that line, and they replaced him with Dominic Cahoon, who was they're incomparable players. So, do you think we'll ever see that dry line reunited, or is the first line now, because I think there's chemistry on that first line, is the first line something that you don't want to break up to get the second line moving again?
You know what? As long as people keep asking for the dry line from Tippett, he's going to put his feet further into the ground and say no way. Like that seems to just drive him insane for whatever reason. We saw them a couple of games ago, like in the final minute, I think, for 15, 20 seconds.
Yep.
It is just not something he's going to go back to. And I can't figure it out. And I'm sure Bruce has the same, questioning of it. But you know what? I mean, this is a good part to talk. What drove me nuts last game was how quickly he went to the blender. And, the whole game seemed choppy from there, right? Like putting McDavid on with Yamo and on the second line. I mean, that to me was just weird. And I don't know that it did anything other than nobody got going as soon as he put that together. And that's not, I mean, Toronto played a hell of a game. I don't want to take anything
They
away.
did.
Yeah.
But I just think he didn't stick with his game plan and got off of it pretty quick.
He flipped the centers basically in the third period drive for McD and gave them each other's wingers for a while. And McDavid did set up Yamamoto for a nice shot, and Draisaitl did set up Puljujarvi for a nice shot, but they couldn't break through. And it seemed like they weren't going to break through on that night. It had shutout all over it after the first period. I was worried that we might not get one. And
they didn't really test him though, right? Like there were every shot he could see, it was a solid defensive game by Toronto.
Really was.
And they made the best of their chances, right? Like, I mean, I think in the third, Edmonton played a good deal of the time, and Bruce, you probably have the stats to say, but they played a good deal of the time in Toronto's end, but without really any type of, I would say there were very few grade A scoring chances, if any, in that third, despite being there so long.
Well, we had 8 grade A scoring chances in the game, but neither David or I could identify a single one that was like a 5 bell,
Yeah.
high end grade A chance. And of course, we don't count the ones where the shots missed the net, which there was maybe 1 or 2 of those that they had a great chance, but they blew it by missing the net. So, but I read, according to the high-end stats people, that the Oilers had 56.77% of the expected goals in that game, and we actually should have won it by 56.77 to 43.23. I love all those significant digits in this expected goals. Just love them. That extra digit just tells me so much more.
Expected goals is a really weird one. It's a little bit of witchcraft. I wanted to ask everyone before, while we still have you here, we'll start the wind down procedure. I did ask the Twitterverse who they wanted us to talk about, and it was someone I wanted to talk about anyways. Someone who has 1 point on the year, is a sub 40% face-off percentage player right now, but someone who continues to dazzle me and haunt my dreams with his amazing board play and general hockey sense, and that's one Gaetan Haas. Am I right to be just endlessly dazzled by this guy, even though he's basically like obviously a depth, a support player for us? But do you guys see? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? We'll start with Bruce.
I like him a lot. And I mean, I don't like him in the face-off dot, and that's really unfortunate. If he was a killer on the face-off, that would be so much value to have that right-hand stick in the, well, anywhere in the lineup that was consistent on the draw. But he's not as strong. He loses power battles, but he's very shifty. He's fast. He's smart. His positional play is outstanding, I think. And he does all kinds of crafty stuff, like in close to the other guy, like the way he moves his body to sort of get his shoulder between the other guy and the puck and protect it, and maybe fake like he's going one way and then he's gone the other way. Like, he's got a lot of game. I've seen this guy in the Spengler Cup a few times over the years, and he caught my eye there. And in Switzerland, he was a killer on the penalty kill, so to speak, and on the power play. And last year he was even strength only for the Oilers, so we didn't really see the whole player. But this year he's been on the PK and doing pretty well, and he's been on the second power play unit, which by definition means he's not doing well. But he's at least being given that chance to bring in the special teams aspect of his game, which he was a specialist in both in Switzerland. So we're getting a little better chance to see his entire game. Sure would be nice to see more than that 1 point, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that's for me, it's exactly that. It's I love watching Haas play. There's a lot of players I've loved watching play on the Oilers over the years that really didn't amount to much, and you want to, you just want to cheer for them. He's that guy right now. Like, he's the guy I want to cheer for and do really well. You know what? Puljujarvi was that same guy, a couple of seasons ago, and turned out to be something, right? When they found him in the right spot with the right coaching. I'm not sure Gaetan Haas is that guy. The face-offs, he's got to be better, or he's like 40% is, that's AHL right there, right? Like, that's not it's not NHL ready. But he's fun to watch. He seems to have great hockey sense, right? And maybe he's the kind of guy I'll give you this. If he had to jump up in the lineup for a couple of games, he could do well. You just have to probably have somebody else take a draw for him. But he certainly he can do a number of different things well. And what are we paying for him? To me, it's one of those guys that came out of nowhere that Holland seems to be good at finding, and I'm happy to have him on the team. I mean, he's what I'm just looking at, $9.15 a year, right? Like, totally. That's exactly what you want to pay for that. So if they can sign him for the same, I'd be happy to see him back.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, well, we'll have to wrap it up there. Thank you, Michael from Oilers Live, and Bruce McCurdy from the Cult of Hockey for joining us so much. High Priest of Oilers Magic, is there anything you want to admonish or give? Are there any warnings for the young acolytes?
Well, there might have been warnings. Bruce, you can help settle this. Are the recent celestial events over the city of Edmonton, do they bode well, or are they a harbinger of?
Okay, that's more.
What do you think?
More astrology. When you start talking about boating for the future, and I'm more into astronomy than astrology. And I got to say, I'm admiring your background here, fellas, with the aurora up there, the Fireball Island.
Yeah.
And this is that your man cave back there, or what do we got going on with this Oilers dressing room? Or is it just one of those slides that?
I think he broke into the Oilers dressing room.
Yeah, that's the Oilers Live set right there.
Now, that little blue star you see in my background here is my meteorite collection. So on the shelf there.
Oh, wow.
So nice. The rest is science books, hockey books. So there's kind of a little bit of an amalgam of both here. So
now we know where you get your power